Let's hit record. Hey, everybody, welcome. Welcome one and all to another SALT Project Community Open Hour. My name is Jimmy Chunga. I am your SALT Project Community Manager, and I'm extremely grateful that you've chosen to join us today, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on YouTube. Thanks for taking the time. We've got a great one for you today. It's going to be good. And most of the time when I say that, I'm lying. But this one, no, this one is actually going to be great. SALT Project Community Open Hour for May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. SALT Project can be found all over the place: YouTube, GitHub, Slack, Twitch, Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and of course the Hacks podcast. Some of you may have seen the big write-up we got in LinkedIn about how LinkedIn is using SALT for all kinds of great things. It's all through their infrastructure, and I want to give a shout out to LinkedIn for giving us some love there on their blogs. It's very, very cool. Here's what's happening today. I'm going to talk about our SALT Project user group meetups. SALT Extensions is, that's SALT Analytics is what that should say. SALT Analytics. Don't know what happened there. I screwed up. We're going to be talking about SALT.
Sorry.
Oh, you changed it. Oh, okay. Well, Anil, so that's not a screw up. So it's SALT Extensions. That's what we're calling that. All right. Very good. Thank you, Anil. We'll get a report on Pycon 2023. And we'll also check in with our community forums, Thomas Phipps, and we've got a demo today with Chad McMarrow, if you're nasty. So let's again, may the 4th be with you. Open hour is every first and third Thursday, 10 to 11 Pacific time. That's 11 to noon Mountain time. You can do the math from there. Our next SALT Project Community Open Hour will be on May 18th, May the 18th. Well, yeah, doesn't quite work. Join a SALT Project working group in the meantime, will you? We'd sure love it if you did. saltproject.io is where you want to go. You can go /home/free, or you can just go to saltproject.io. By the way, I want to put out an announcement. We've been working on getting this fixed. The SALT Project community calendar on saltproject.io is broken. It's just a weird security setting that has been changed somewhere within VMware. We're working on getting that fixed now. In the meantime, please consult with your working group captains on times and links and all that sort of stuff, and be checking Slack. It could be fixed. It could be fixed today. I don't know. We're working on it. Just know that we're aware of it, and we're trying like crazy to get it updated for you. SALT Project user group meetups are happening. Thank you to Nick Hughes for being the guy, the champion of this series of events. They're single day events, speakers, recorded sessions, great stuff. A lot of good education there, plus food. Anytime you can have education and food together, I'm always in. Spugum.com. It sounds like a dirty word. It isn't. Spugum, SPUGM.com is where you want to go for a SALT Project user group. I think you get the idea. Spugum.com. If you want more information about where these user group meetups are happening, we would love to have you involved. And I know our good friend Nick Hughes would be super excited if you were to sign up. All right, without any further ado, I'd like to throw it over to our good friend Anil Sharma. Anil, thanks for being here again, man. It's always great to have you, and we'll talk about some SALT extensions.
Thanks, Sanger. Hi, guys. We just wanted to formally announce the 2 new extensions that we released last week, SALT Describe and SALT Analytics. SALT Describe is to help people to get started with SALT easily by generating state files automatically. So I have put a blog link there. SALT Analytics, we had some innovations happening inside VMware, and we were thinking that how we can bring the capabilities to the SALT, which we never had before. And that was, there are so many problems happening with the SALT infrastructure, but can we help them to collect the data and, do the, some processing on top of that, or feed the data to, some system where it can be monitored. So SALT Analytics was born out of that. And it has basically, it helps anybody to run SALT Analytics on master or minion to collect, process, or forward data. So it's very configurable. So I invite community to start using it, and especially for SALT Analytics, they can start writing their own collectors and processors and see where they want to forward the data. Like they want to forward to multiple systems or single system, like Elasticsearch or disk or database. And you can choose your own forwarder there. So I want basically the community to write the collectors and processes, because you know what system you want to collect and what you want to do with data. So with that, we can have a great set of data processing pipelines in the salt analytics. I also have Praveena. She's a senior product manager in VMware. She's helping us to get a great traction about whatever we do on the Salt Open side. She has some plans about these two extensions. Praveena, if you can tell us something to community, I think that would be great.
Sure, Anil, thank you. And hi, everybody. It's excited to be on this call. And before I jump into what these two, how we are working towards having our customers adopt it, I just wanted to say that, I consider Salt Open Team as the innovators, right? The folks that provides the next gen capabilities. And I'm always excited to see what the team is bringing forward. I always go back to the analogy of Blockbuster, if everyone remembers that. And there was no need for streaming videos, and then Netflix came in and disrupted, right? We consider that as a blue sky opportunity. And I consider Salt Open Team as the blue sky opportunities, where we have all these amazing capabilities, and how can we leverage those capabilities and have customer adoption? So, with Salt Describe, being able to have those SLS files automatically generated to onboard a blue sky brownfield environment, or even any customers that are coming from a third party, how can they easily adopt Salt if they don't have any background knowledge of Salt? This is going to be a huge differentiator for us. And that's how we are going after those markets where we have new customers who are adopting Salt. How can we get them started quickly? Hey, here you go. We have Salt Describe that you can just generate the state files. You can then change it to how you want it to be, or you can just use it as is. That's solving for quick time to value and reducing the time for adoption. Right. And with the Salt Analytics, when I do the roadmap presentation, I'm telling you there's not one customer that said, oh, okay, we are not using it, right? Every single customer is super excited about Salt Analytics, and they want to use it in their system, and they want to adopt it, and they want to they're looking at us to provide use cases, and how can we easily adopt Salt Analytics so that we can monitor, our masters and minions and the job executions. And taking it even further, how can we provide insights and the AI ML aspect to it? So that's the future. But currently the need is to monitor master and minion and the job executions. And every single customer is super excited. So, when I talk to customers, I talk about Salt Describe, Salt Analytics, and what's coming in the pipeline. That always gets them excited. And I'm always looking forward for Salt Open Team to provide those additional capabilities that we can solve for a customer need a problem, and they can easily expand their footprint with Salt. So these are some of the things that we are doing, with customer communication and the use cases they have, and how can we have Describe and Analytics be part of the Salt ecosystem. So that was a short gist of what we are trying to do today.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's great stuff. Thank you, Praveena. It's great to have you here. Anil, is there anything else from your end, sir?
Yes, just a couple of lines to add that, the Salt Describe is something that we have been thinking about. How do we make it easier to use Salt? So it's for Salt Open, we treat everybody as a community, like customers, partners, open source, non-open source, whatever it may be. So it's going to help them to get started with the Salt. Now, that's the idea. We need feedback on that. Salt Analytics is to help with the troubleshooting the Salt. What data you want to collect to help you to troubleshoot it, right? Where you want to create those monitoring dashboards, right? We will be attempting few things internally, and we'll see basically if we can showcase that in the upcoming community open hours in a few months' time. But we'd certainly like to showcase the power of salt analytics. But at the same time, I think it opens the door to community to experiment with these two extensions and give us feedback that, hey, or basically help us to make it much more mature. So with that, I dedicate these two extensions to the community, and thank you for everything they are doing. I know one thing that people want to know about the 3006.1, and I just want to tell that we are on track to what we promised in the last open hour, that we will be releasing in the first week of May, and first week of May is still not over. Send it over to
you. You're close, man. Yeah,
it's always close. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, 3006.1 already coming out. This is fantastic news, and I love how fast everything is going. And these salt extensions are very cool. Also, working group captains, as you're watching this, working group captains are going to be reaching out to you so that you're aware. Anil has got some new stuff, some new and exciting stuff. So we're going to be having a sync soon for our working group captains.
Yeah, on that, one thing which with these releases and everything is, I think we are trying to bridge the gap that we had developed in the past about short releases. But one thing which we as a team are constantly thinking and debating is that how do we get salt more tested so that salt releases are stable in the real sense, and we can fix issues before we do the GA release. So while we will be taking some stuff internally, that will not be complete until I get attention from community. So I would be basically reaching out to community and see what we can do together to test it more rigorously, so that when we do the releases, we find the issues before we release, not after the release.
Very good. All right. Let's have a round of applause for Anil and Pravina. What do you say? I mean, that is just, well done. Thank you very much to both of you. Good stuff. Next up, Alyssa, David Murphy, and do we have Derek? I don't know if Derek is in yet.
I don't think Derek is feeling well, so.
Oh, that's too bad. All right.
I just noticed by looking at his Slack status, so sorry.
Yeah, no worries. You may remember last week we were actually checking in on site with Alyssa Rock and David Murphy, and it was big fun. It was confusing, it was chaotic, and it was everything salt, in my opinion. I absolutely loved it, and so I'm hoping that Alyssa and David can take some time and give us a quick update on some of the cool stuff that happened at Pycon 2023 in Salt Lake City.
All right, thanks, Chunga. And yes, apologies for the Steadicam problems.
Don't apologize. We loved it. It was fantastic.
No, once you shared your screen, I couldn't see my view of the camera anymore. So I was like, well, let's hope it looks good. Yeah, and I did get one of my undergrad degrees in film, but it was in film studies, not film production. Sorry. No, anyway.
Well, you should know that if you're doing film studies, you never apologize for your work. It was fantastic.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. So, for me, I'll give a couple highlights for me, then I'll pass it over to David Murphy. For me, the best talk at the conference was the talk about how Python is powering the James Webb Telescope. That was such a fun and delightful and inspiring talk that once the talks come out online, I do recommend checking that one out. It's just also really cool to learn about AstroPy, which is a Python community that is developed to support the astronomy science community. And so all really cool stuff. So I recommend checking that out. And then my favorite open session was one about open source governance that brought together lots of open source community leaders throughout the Python ecosystem. And that was just a really awesome discussion. I really enjoyed it, and excited to see some of the interesting research projects that are being done to help open source communities govern themselves a little bit better and create resources to help them in that task. And then I had lots of great networking conversations. My favorites were I did talk to some friends from Red Hat Ansible about their documentation system. And that was really great just to connect with them and also hear what's going on with them. But it was also great to talk to Prad Jung, who is the developer of the Furo theme that we use on the SALT install guide, and hopefully eventually we'll expand it to the rest of the SALT documentation. But it was really great to talk to him. And I also attended a presentation he did about the improvements he's going to make to the pip install or pip error messaging. He's just doing a lot to just make the error messages more helpful, more descriptive. And that was exciting to see, and documentation adjacent. So cool stuff. That was the highlights of Pycon for me. I'll pass it over to David Murphy.
Yeah, for me, the thing at Python, like everywhere else at the moment, is everything's machine learning and generative AI. There was lots of, a couple of sessions I attended about biases in generative AI and how to catch them. As we all know, the generative AI is basically building in from the data sets that are being fed into it are prejudices. So those were quite interesting. There are also a few sessions that I attended on which were basically securing the open source pipelines so that you can get authenticity, which was pretty interesting. Things like single store, etc., that the open source community is doing. One of them, like GitHub Actions, that we're going to leverage, which is using JSON web tokens, so that using open identity, so that you can get short-lived tokens to increase your security and allow you to publish into PyPy without having to rely on usernames and passwords. One of the two things that blew me away on the last day, and well, a lot of them, it was interesting to note that a lot at PyCon, a lot of people using speed up libraries where typically they would have used C, C++. It seemed like everybody was using Rust. And one of the classic examples of this was a new linter called Rough. Rough. We use a lot of pre-commits, Black, Pep8, Highlint, etc. Rough is basically all of these, except for Black, done in Rust. And instead of multiple seconds, tens of seconds, the presentation showed 0.61, I believe, seconds in Rough to do the exact same set of files. It was like, wow, how much savings that's going to save us when we implement it. And another one, rather than using pip, was demonstrating PDM as an alternative to pip or poetry. And the piece I liked in that was that it catches conflicts straight off. It can lock your dependencies to install, but it also goes through and catches conflicts between different versions, so that straight up, before you even get to install, it will tell you what the module you're using, the dependencies, if it has conflicting dependencies, and sort them out as to which they should be, which I thought was just great. Talk about saving a bunch of time. Even if we still use pip, using that as a pre-commit to check all of our dependencies that we've generated will save a ton of time in debugging later and testing. But it was pretty good PyCon. Next one's in Pittsburgh, so it's a little further afield, but it was quite a large attendance. Yeah, it was definitely, everything is Rust underneath for get speed ups, generative AI, machine learning, and that would be about it for me.
Very interesting from both of you. The Rust thing, I don't know why, but I'm kind of surprised to hear all that stuff about Rust.
Well, Rust has got a really good bidirectional built-in from day one, so to speak, or not in the 0.4 versions, but the recent versions. Real good bidirectionality between Rust and Python and built in. So it's like they really thought about leveraging Rust with Python. So it makes it really nice, simple and easy. And Rust basically is as fast as C++. And in many ways, it basically stops you doing 80% of the dumb stuff where you shoot your foot off in C or C++. So it's leveraging. I got to say, I'm a fan of Rust. But I've been doing C since 1980 and C++ since the 90s. And
Wow.
what I really like about Rust is it's all the things a smart C programmer would do. Rust makes sure you don't make those dumb mistakes. So that's really, it makes it a lot more secure. And you're not carrying around a bunch of stuff and memory, it'll kill once you've finished owning something.
Yeah.
So I like Rust, and I like the interaction between it and Python.
Well,
So
thank
just
you to
a
both
small-
of you. Oh, yeah,
A
go
small
for it.
note
Go for it.
about something that was talked just now, which was the PyPy short-lived tokens. The Salt Analytics extension was released using that, and it's really simple to set that up with GitHub Actions. And you no longer have to keep secrets around, long-lived secrets around, which is really, really good.
Nice. Very cool. Okay. Well, thank you, David Murphy. Thank you, Alyssa Rock. Fantastic stuff, Derek. Hope you get feeling better. And thanks for the report. That's I think very helpful for people who couldn't be there. All right. Next up, our good friend, Thomas Phipps. He's in my hood. In fact, he's just down the street, near as I can tell. Let's find out what's happening with the community forums of Thomas Phipps.
Hey, not much this past couple of weeks, although the reason I'm going to be talking about sys and doc runner, or sys module and doc runner, is because it came up more than once. Basically what they are, the sys module allows you to basically find out what modules are actually running on your minions. It'll let you list them out, but it also contains all of the documentation for those modules. So you could look up, say, command.run documentation without having to go to the web page. Just run salt minion sys.doc command.run, and it'll output all of the documentation that's within it. The doc runner is basically taking that documentation across all of your minions and aggregating it together so you can find out the documentation for every module that you have access to, regardless of what minion it's on. So you can find out a lot of information about your environment just by using these two modules.
Very good. Anything else, Thomas?
That's pretty much it this week.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. It's much appreciated. Thomas is here every single open hour with something great coming out of the community forums, and I will give you the round of applause, Thomas. I appreciate you doing it every single time. Okay, next up, I'm really excited about this. Chad McMarrow. Everybody say hi to Chad. Hi, Chad. This is I'm excited about this demo. I'm going to turn it over to you, sir. If you need to share your screen, just let me know. We're doing a demo on salt test labels with Chad today.
Yeah. I'll be sharing my screen here just in a moment. If you want to refresh that PowerPoint, there's one more image in there. I don't know why it's not showing up on your end.
All right, let's try it. We'll see what we can do here. It's kind of screwed up my presentation, but that's all right. We'll go back through this and we'll see what we can run through this. Oh, of course. All right, give me 1 second. 1 second. You guys can still see this, right? There we go.
Cool. So thank you for having me here. And yes, I will be talking about the salt test labels. Ultimately, we as a community was kind of running into the problem where our test suite was taking a long time to run for every PR. And that was really annoying. So what we implemented is labels. There's three ones that we will use typically, and then there's one obscure one, flaky jail, that will probably hardly ever be used, but that's just more or less of like a test is causing us problem, but we just want to keep the trains running on time. And the three labels that most people probably find themselves using is test core, no fast, and test slow. And basically these three groups are categorizing the test. The fast test category, or no fast, is the tests that are typically faster than 5 seconds, and it's enabled by default. So when you have a pull request or you're running a test, it will run all the fast tests specified for that pull request. And if you want to disable that, you would set the no fast label. And then the test core is disabled by default, and that will disable all the test core test in your PR other than for the ones in your change file. And what's in the change file? Just a reminder, a change file, the change test files is compiled, and basically it's a list of files that we figure that your PR has altered, right? So if you're like modifying the state file, we would mark all the test state files as change. So by default, the slow and core will run there. But for like salt test SSH, we run the core and slow in those files, because obviously your changes probably didn't have an effect on that. But if a person contributing or a core member goes, I think these changes are a little bit deeper, they can then set these test slow or test core labels depending on what they think needs to be ran. And ultimately will hopefully help everyone developing salt save time. These can also be ran locally with the image down below with Knox. You can just pass -- no fast test, -- core test, -- slow test. So now if you technically want to run your test suite with no test, you can just pass -- no fast test, no test will run. Or if you just want the slow test or core test, you can specify specifically. Here I can show a quick example of that. I'll request to share my screen.
You should be good.
Cool. So right here, I'm going to be running a test SSH. I just have the decorator no fast test, right? You can see right here, we run it. It's going to collect all the tests and then it's going to skip them all because we specified we want no test, because again, slow test and core test are disabled by default. And if we want it to run slow test, we would just do -- slow test and then -- core test for that, and then it'll pick up those slow tests here in this run and run them. Oh wait, I think they're all fast tests, and I may have fat fingered something. Yes. They will all probably skip because I believe they're all fast tests still. But if we get rid of that no fast test, then they'll run. Yep. And we just get rid of that no fast test. They'll get a quick run here. You can say they passed. Now, if one had an @slow test decorator, that would be enabled, and we can add that right now. We can just do @pytest.mark slow test. Why am I? It's always that live demo jitter that gets you. Yep, okay. It looks like I typed that in right. We should be able to give it a quick run here. Yep, and then if we get rid of, and now if we pass -- no fast test, we'll just get that one test to run because we marked one as a slow test. And you can do the same for core. And I don't believe I properly, maybe I didn't save it, but it should be skipping.
Last.
What was that?
Yeah, You marked the class, not the.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Shane. Yep. Nope, I guess I get to get blame now. The Zoom is locking up my computer right now for some reason. Now, if we give it a run here, it should just be the slow test. Thank you for pointing that, Shane. But to reiterate on the core test, I believe I skipped over that real quickly. A core test is something that we find that is like internal and core of salt in the form of like the way we handle our state files, like, you know, if we skip on this certain condition, or like a grain functionality. Most of our PRs contribute to salt are not altered for that. Okay, I'm going to skip that. I guess we have some permissions for that test there. So a core test would fall underneath something that wouldn't be changed by a salt user on a daily basis. And again, that will ultimately save time, because I don't think we need to test the internals of the salt state only if statement every single time we do it. I don't think we need to test multi-master every time we have a pull request. And that ultimately saves us a lot of time. And then go into a pull request instance of this. This is a pull request of Pedro. I just grabbed it here. You would just set a pull request label for you wanting to run. This is in our pipeline. You can see right here, we don't have any specified labels. So we go to the default. We don't have any test labels in there. We got to solve for 306, but that is ignored. So we go to our default behavior. And if we jump to, let's find something sweet. Let's jump to this test right here, this test run. You can see we have the default behavior enabled, where we have the run fast change test is disabled because we run all the fast tests by default. But if you pass the no fast test decorator, you would just run the fast test in the change file. And then we just run the slow and chord change test by default. Again, if you pass the slow test or core test decorator, then we would run all the slow and core test for that. And then here's the fourth label, the run flaky test. There are no tests with this fourth label. This is more or less an emergency label if we just, again, want to keep those trains running on time. And if this one is running, it looks like it is. Here we have a pull request with, I believe, slow and core enabled. And if we scroll this down, we have test core and no fast test enabled. So that will change how things will inherently run. And if I jump to one, hopefully it's reached it. Nope, it hasn't. I was hoping to time it perfectly where you could see it running, but it looks like this guy completed. So we can jump here. You can see, because we had the no fast, we ran the fast change test, and we skipped the majority of our fast test, and we didn't run the core test change. We ran the core test. That's a quick little demo of it. Sorry if I was talking a little fast, jitters, and a lot of information to throw at you. Is there any questions?
Well, I, for one, before we get to questions, I thought you did great. So, Chad, head over to the Salty store, pick you out some swag. Let me know what it is, and we'll get you laced up for your excellent demo. Thank you very much, sir. You did great.
Thank you. Just wanted to show where those labels are right here. You know, this is where you would see them if that's what they are, if you ever see them. So please don't panic.
Very
One
cool.
question.
Go for
Who
it.
can set labels? Who can set labels?
I believe it is only people who have it set for the PR. I mean, who has permissions to the repo. We're looking into changing that, but for now, the default behavior should be sufficient for most people. But the people contributing, I mean, the people who work at VMware should be able to set them. And I believe contributors who are not have like administrative access and that aren't able to set that, but we're looking and potentially changing that.
Great, thanks.
Very good. All right, Chad, if you're done, sir, I'd like to go ahead and reshare my screen.
Yep.
And we'll move on. Thanks again, man. That was fantastic. Time now. The timing could not be better for our Q&A section. So if you have any questions for Chad, I believe Anil, hopefully Anil is still with us. He is. Yeah, very good. If you have any questions about salt extensions for Anil or Pravina or anything else we're talking about here today at Open Hour, now is your time. Feel free to just jump in.
I just want to add a couple of things what Chad did. Remember, Changa, in last October, you came to me and said that we have some feedback from community that, hey, our PRs are not getting merged faster, right?
Yep.
And that's where we started looking at that, hey, what we can do to merge more PRs, both internal and that we get from community. So at one point of time, we were doing nothing. We are just merging the PRs, and we did achieve a lot of PRs per week. But the problem was that, we were running all the tests all the time, and the feedback of PRs were not faster. And this is where, when we asked Chad that, hey, can we look at what exactly we do in our test suite? And can we get the feedback on PRs faster? And he did a very good job of creating new test groups, analyzing faster, low or core test in our test suite. And result of that would be that it will enable us and community to get the feedback on PR much faster, and that will enable us to automatically have faster feedback on PR and eventually merging PRs with quality and more PRs. So that was the basically background of why we did that.
Yeah,
so
and it's and I think the community is grateful for that, because now the PRs are being handled much faster as a result. And thank you to Chad. Thank you to Anil, of course. Any questions?
Just to add some statistics there. Sorry.
No, go for it.
To get about like a 72 to 75% test coverage on Ubuntu, that's all our fast tests, and that takes about 15 to 18 minutes to run on like a 6-core machine with like 12 gigs of RAM to get 70 to 75% test coverage. We still maintain a lot of our coverage through our test suite. We did lose a little bit with these changes, but we have nightly tests running in the background, and basically we're monitoring for a fail. And if there is a fail, and if it's due to us missing an important test for a pull request, which would probably be pretty rare, because again, we're looking if we need to add that slow test or core test label, we will then revert that and then get it properly fixed in that. But that's ultimately rare, and for that, and I think it's quite worth it for the performance of our test suite to hopefully get a quicker turnaround. But back to you.
Very good. Thank you, Chad. Anybody else? Questions for Chad, for Anil, for anyone? Yeah. Somebody raised their hand. Yes, Josh.
Jace.
Jace. Sorry, Jace.
No problem. Two questions. If there's no decorator on the test, does it run? And if there's no label on the PR, does it? I mean, what gets run in each of those two cases?
Yeah, so it defaults to fast test if it's not given a decorator. Again, a good portion of our test suite is in the fast group. It doesn't make sense manually going through and adding that to everything. That would suck. And by default, to reiterate for a label and a pull request, you have the change test files, which Pedro did some work again, where it detects like, hey, you changed file X, Y, and Z. Therefore, these test files are impacted. And because of that, we need to run everything in that. So the fast test, the slow test, the change test. So like, let's say you change something in SSH, right? The SSH test files should run all the slow, core, and fast. But like your test CMD test files, because you didn't alter anything in that PR that should alter that, it will only run the fast test in those. So you get a really good sandy check across salt, and you get the in-depth check for the files that should be impacted.
Thank you.
I had a question about like I've been trying to keep up a bit more with the Slack community and so on, and I've seen like some mentions about like external dependencies and relenv and or like hard-coded paths and just some different things. But I didn't quite kind of figure out overall what was going on, or like is it all good, like relenv all is well with installing things in it? And
Good question.
we're still not quite on 3006 because we're still looking forward to that release. So once that comes out, we'll use it more and know more. But I was just curious what the feeling was.
Anybody? Anyone?
I can speak to it from the user side a little bit, because
Go
I was
for
the
it.
one that ran into big challenges with that. It is definitely Pedro. I think it was Pedro had done a lot of work, or maybe I'm confusing people. But yes, there has been big strides made, and it is a lot better than the Tiamat based 3005, which was quite frankly a little bit of a disaster. Yeah, there was in the early 3006 RCs, you had to, when you were compiling pip wheels, pip binary packages where there wasn't a pre-built wheel available. You had to install your system libraries, and then you had to manually specify the paths for them to be included, because relenv wouldn't pick them up. But the work done in the recent relenv releases, and consequently the recent salt releases, including 3006.0, seems to be much better. I haven't tested it extensively, but it is much, much better. So I would suggest you test it out. Don't run it in production yet. And you probably, since Anil has promised us 3006.1 is coming out by tomorrow, you might want to hold off till then. But I would highly suggest you test it out. But so far, everything indicates that it's going to be much better than 3005.
I had played with 3006 a little bit, before we really started trying to use it, and it seemed much better in that regard. So looking forward to trying soon.
So for a little context on the developer side, Gary, the feeling that you had with Tiamat was more or less the feeling that we had, and that's why we switched to relenv. It all sounded really good and cool to be able to do something like that with Tiamat, but the more we dug into what we needed for salt, the more we found out about its shortcomings. And once it reached the user's hands, even more things were problematic, which motivated us even more to create a better solution, and that is relenv. Since relenv is infant, because 2006 is the first version to include it, I'm sure there's still things to address, namely some of what Gary mentioned, and we did make some improvements to alleviate the user side of it, of using it. But in overall, I believe that it's much better. I think there's some fixes to address still, but we are getting to a way better place than we were before. So yeah, please run it through your specific use cases, because that's one of the things that we cannot exactly test in salt, because the salt usage by contributors and customers and regular users is so broad that some of those use cases we don't even know about until something fails and someone files a public report and says, look, I'm trying to do this, And we were like, okay, we never thought we could use salt like that. So that's a new use case. Let's see what we can do. So please try it out and give us feedback as much as possible. We are trying to make our releases and our stability better. And we can only get that with your feedback.
Yeah, to Anil's point earlier, we need more contribution. We need more help. We need more testing. We need more of everything. Thank you, Pedro. Any other questions?
On the testing and Neil's point earlier, I actually just landed on a thread in the general here about what people are doing for testing. I'm going to try to add some input. We're doing like some GitLab and Terraform, like VM-based testing for all of our states. And I think after 3006, it's going to be much easier, and we'll be able to provide some feedback, for Excel, like of our states and so on. With all the changes for 3005 and packaging, and we weren't quite sure how we were going to be releasing things. So it's really all geared to 3005 right now. We're going to adjust it for 3006 and hopefully be able to give more feedback quicker. We would have caught this immediately if we would have been able to run 3006 kind of easily in our testing environment. So.
Gotcha.
And thank you. And we are looking forward for that feedback. Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you, guys.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Any more questions? Gary and Hunter have been suspiciously quiet in this open hour. Anything from either of you?
No, I thought I was pretty direct on the last open hour, so I figure I'd keep quiet this one.
Hunter, you good? Everybody else good? Okay.
Everything's good here.
All right, good to see you,
I would
Hunter.
say
Thanks for
that-
turning on the camera, man. That was good to see you. Okay, well, if there is nothing else, Shane, sir, if you would, play us out.
I'm having a hard time coming up with a joke. A good friend of mine had the entire left side of his body amputated. Yeah, he's all right now.
Shane Lee, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. Yeah, very good. All right, everybody, that's it. Thank you for joining us for another Salt Project Community Open Hour.
I have one last comment here.
Oh, well,
I
by
feel
all
like
means.
these jokes at the end, this is a suggestion to Anil. These jokes at the end of open hour should definitely be considered in Shane's performance reviews.
I agree.
Just tossing that out there.
That's great.
Not yet.
I don't know what to do now.
All right,
Yeah, good.
everybody. Thanks again for showing up. Spread the word, will you? We got a lot of stuff, and if you like Shane's performance, he'll be back in our next open hour, and he'll be talking about some stuff related to Windows in the next open hour. So make sure you come back, and thanks to all of you for showing up, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.